Well, let's get talking now. I have joining me on The World Now is Global Affairs analyst Sam Fateh and Calvin Duck. Thanks a lot, gentlemen, for joining in at this time. I'll begin with you, Calvin Duck. Polls say one in about 10 Americans are undecided about how to vote in November. So how do you think the debate of Tuesday will, help those undecided?
Well, I will say that, we've all been talking about the answer to the question, who won the debate? I think the people who won the debate are the ones that you're talking about, just because there is no more clear of a choice. And I just want to say for me personally, I supported Biden before last night, but I actually have no other choice because I refuse to vote for a president who won't condemn white supremacy. And I know Donald Trump says a lot of things, and I know that, Republicans say, don't take him literally or seriously. I forget what they're saying. It's always jokes. But the real thing was, as an African American last night, I felt my situation more and more in danger when the president not only looked in the camera and refused to do it, but also gave out some slogan that I had to Google for a white supremacist group that I wasn't familiar with, but now he's put on the international stage. So in that sense, yes, anybody undecided after last night, the choice is clear.
And Sam, what's it for you? Do you think that debate, made much of a difference?
Well, I think both Joe Biden and President Trump, if they are talking to their base, there is no influencing when it comes to shifting people from voting for Trump to voting for Joe Biden, or shifting people from voting for Joe to voting for Donald. Here is the thing. The bulk of this election is going to be with the undecided voters. And I think with last night's debate, I mean, to me, there's not clearly any winner. They would have to do a little bit more in order to convince these folks to go into any side. Again, when you listen to them, there was no conversation deeply about policies or clearly what their plans are. They were just yapping and a lot of insults, interruptions, especially from Donald Trump. I mean, trying to hit Biden below the belt. But Biden's campaign strategically was also prepared, knowing how Donald Trump is like and what he is going to do and how they think they can find an equilibrium in that. But here's the deal. I think a little bit, Joe Biden was able to convince a lot more people to vote for him. We currently have the racial injustice issues, and Donald Trump wouldn't call out the white supremacists or even condemn them. This is not the first time. We have seen it when Charleston happened, and also when it comes to some of their plans, especially healthcare, we know that most people favor Obamacare staying. So again, if Biden will make that better, then more undecided voters are likely to vote for him as well. I think that was where it stood.
Well, let me quickly compare your, perception now with what Calvin has already said about whom you, Sam, will, trust more in dealing with racism issues. Of course, you've mentioned the Trump angle now, but then if you listen to what Mr. Biden said he acknowledged that his government at the time didn't do much, unlike, the Trump administration that, hasn't done anything at all to curb racism.
I mean, racism and its institution has been, embedded in American government and governance system. So there is a lot more of policy work from Congress to local governments and state governments in order to change it. And yes, it will need a lot of political will from the federal levels in order to change that. If the question is just about the racial and social injustice and then helping in terms of social welfare and addressing other social issues in many communities around America, I would trust Joe Biden with my vote for that. Now, if you look at his fiscal policy plan, which I have been reading in detail for the past week, it includes a lot about Social Security and how we are going to increase taxes. Of course, his tax increment is going to bring in more than $4 trillion within the first between 2021 and 2030. Right. But how is he going to, he indicated how he would distribute that to help people. So when it comes to social issues, I would trust Mr. Biden with my vote.
All right, well, back to Calvin Dack now. Let's, cover more ground. This time, what are your takeaways in the handling of the COVID-19 crisis in America? So President Trump is saying he's done so much. The economy is at its best. The country is a few weeks away from acquiring a vaccine. But how do you weigh that in the light of at least 206,000 deaths from the virus?
Well, I think that was one of the other unfortunate parts last night, because we didn't have a real discussion about how we as a nation can overcome the challenges of this pandemic. When we talked about what had been done, Donald Trump not only wouldn't admit that there are other things that could have been done, but he framed it all as in how great he did. I think at one point, even speaking in the third person. But I think what's more important as far as what people's lives depend on are the fact that the president said his own scientists were wrong about masks and about the speed of the vaccination. And what that showed us is there's, of course, a big economic debate about should things be open, should things be closed, who would keep things closed more than the other. That's kind of irrelevant if the president is not listening to his own scientists on this issue. And so I think that was the scariest thing, because President Trump isn't just doing a bad job of leadership, but now he's taking the place of doctors and scientists who, most Americans trust.
All right, and Sam, in a related vein now, both men also sparred on, the impact of the virus on the economy. While Trump said he's prided himself with opening up the economy, that isn't the situation with Mr. Biden, who insists that because of the frontline workers who have been so badly hit in terms of loss of jobs, the economy shouldn't be open.
Well, we cannot keep the economy closed forever. I mean, in the next few years, in fact, starting next year, already America is seeing housing crisis in terms of people trying to pay their rent. What government needs to do is to strategize a mechanism of how they are going to open roll back from the lockdowns. But if we are rolling back from the lockdowns, how do we mitigate some of the social issues that we are going to have? I mean, we are going to have a financial problem. There's no doubt about that. And if we don't manage it right, it will be worse than the Great Depression, period. So again, it's not just about speaking about it, whether you're going to keep it open or locked. You must find a solution as to how to keep the economy buoyant, as far as whether you're going to open. If you open recklessly, I mean, a lot of people are going to get sick. The economy is going to die anyway. If you keep the economy shut, the economy is going to die anyway. So you are finding yourself in a very, very hard place. So what needs to be done is to lay out a proper plan. And government cannot keep funding people with stimulus packages if nobody is working also and paying taxes. Now, so far, about four packages or 4 acts have been passed in Congress just between March and April alone, which Trump has signed. Billions of dollars, went out. Nearly $500 billion have already been distributed. So the thing here is there is a need for a proper plan in order for to spell out how the economy will stay buoyant, how we can help people, and how we can make sure that if you go to many parts of America, they have homeless crisis, how we are going to mitigate all of these crises while we roll back from the lockdown. It has to be done in a steady and very strategic and thoughtful manner.
So quickly, let me hear from the two of you now where you are, planning to in terms of the integrity of the electoral process. So President Trump is saying monitor your votes, but Mr. Biden is saying he will abide by the results. What would it be for you quickly as we wrap up this interview, Sam?
Well, look, I mean, I would love to see America's electoral system change from this electoral college system where pretty much the election is just between a few states, that's how I look at it, to popular vote. I mean, for me, it's the right thing to do and it's the most common sense thing to do. Right. But Trump trying to throw sand into the integrity of the U.S. political system and political process is what is wrong. This is the very process that brought him to power. So he can throw sand into it and not accept when he loses. All
right, Sam, quickly from you, Calvin, what would it be?
Well, I think that what's unfortunate is that I think close to 1 million people have already voted. And President Donald Trump not only was spreading misinformation about mail-in voting, but he was discouraging people from, using the options available to them and even encouraging his supporters to
Right.
linger around, I guess, to scare people. So I think that's unfortunate. However, I do think that our voting system is strong, that we are going to get a clear result from this election, regardless of what the president says he will or won't do.
Calvin Dak and Sam Fateh, thank you very much for your contributions on TVC News.
My pleasure.
Thank you.